August 19th, 1944. 4 miles south of Carentan, France, Staff Sergeant Leo Vance stood beside his Sherman tank, staring at a briefing that read like a death sentence. The math was brutal and simple. A German Tiger could kill his Sherman from over a mile away. But Vance's 75mm gun, it needed to get within 350 yards, 4 football fields, to even scratch the Tiger's frontal armor. In 2 days, one Tiger had destroyed 12 Allied tanks, 12 crews, 60 men. American doctrine said, advance in line, concentrate fire, follow the book. But Vance had built these Shermans in Cleveland. He knew what they could do, and as he sketched angles in his notebook that night, he saw something the manual writers never imagined. Not a better gun, not thicker armor, a geometry problem, one that would turn 6-to-1 odds into something the Wehrmacht never saw coming. The Tiger's greatest strength was about to become its fatal weakness. Before we go any further, if you want to hear more incredible, untold stories from history, hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments what city you're watching from. I love hearing how far these forgotten truths can travel. Now back to the story. August 17th, 1944. 0600 hours. The assembly area 4 miles south of Carentan smelled like diesel fuel and wet earth. The morning air, still cool enough that Leo Vance's breath made little clouds as he leaned against the hull of his Sherman M4A1. The tank's name, Ironclad, was crudely painted in yellow across the barrel of the 75mm gun, a joke from his loader about their chances. Leo didn't feel lucky. He felt tired. He'd been writing the same letter to Clara for 20 minutes, crossing out lines, starting over. The words wouldn't come right. How did you tell your wife that after 3 weeks in Normandy, the worst part wasn't the fighting, it was the waiting? They'd engaged German half-tracks twice, knocked out a Panzer IV last week near the hedge. The Sherman had performed exactly as advertised. Reliable, fast, good enough. The numbers are on our side, he wrote finally, because it was true, and because Clara needed to believe he'd be coming home. Around him, his crew moved through their morning ritual. Owen Riley was cleaning the gun breech with the same patient precision he'd used back in Nebraska, wiping down every surface like he was preparing for Sunday inspection rather than another day of death. The kid hummed a quiet tune under his breath, sounded like a church song. Owen always hummed church songs when he was nervous. "Think we're rolling into anything today, Sarge?" Owen asked, without looking up from his work. Leo folded the letter and tucked it into his breast pocket next to the last one Clara had sent. "Intel says the Germans are falling back. Might be a quiet day." It wasn't going to be a quiet day. Leo could feel it in the way Captain Decker had been pacing the command tent since dawn, in the way the radio chatter had gone silent for the past hour. Something was coming. At 0700, Battalion S2 called the tank commanders to a briefing. Leo walked across the muddy field with 11 other sergeants and lieutenants, men who'd learned to read each other's faces better than words. Nobody was joking this morning. Captain Decker stood beside a map board, his face pale with fatigue. He'd been in North Africa, had seen what German armor could do when it had good ground and better guns. When he spoke, his voice carried the flat tone of a man delivering news he wished he didn't have to share. "Gentlemen, we have confirmation of a Tiger Y operating in the hedge near Hill 205. Call sign is Steel Phantom. Intelligence indicates it's commanded by Oberleutnant Klaus Richter, who has 52 confirmed kills since Tunisia. In the past 48 hours, this single tank has destroyed 12 Allied vehicles. 3 of them were Shermans." The tent went silent, except for the sound of a light drizzle beginning to mist the canvas roof. Decker pulled down a technical diagram, side-by-side schematics of the M4 Sherman and the Tiger. Leo had seen these before back in Cleveland when they were training crews fresh off the assembly line, but seeing them here, in a tent 4 miles from where that tiger was waiting made the numbers feel different. The M4's 75mm gun can penetrate 70mm of armor at 500 yards, Decker continued. The Tiger's frontal armor is 102mm. The Tiger's 88mm cannon can punch through our frontal armor at 2,200 yards. He let that sink in. You'll need to close to point-blank range under 350 yards, and even then you need a perfect shot at the turret ring or lower hull. Leo did the math in his head, the same way he used to calculate production quotas back at the Cleveland tank plant. The Tiger could kill them from over a mile away. They needed to get within 4 football fields, and even then, they'd need luck. He thought about the factory floor, watching Shermans roll off the line every hour. 6 Shermans for every German tank. 10 Shermans, 20. The foreman had said it plainly. We can't build them as good as German tanks, son, but we can build 6 for every one of theirs. Quantity over quality. American industrial might versus German engineering. It sounded good in a speech. It sounded less good when you were sitting inside one of those 6 tanks, knowing you were designed to be expendable. Owen Riley raised his hand. Sir, what if we don't go head-on? Decker's jaw tightened. Your job is to follow doctrine, Corporal. Doctrine says you suppress with smoke, advance in line, and concentrate fire. Dismissed. The tank commanders filed out into the drizzle. Nobody spoke. Leo gathered his crew and looked at each of their faces. Owen with his Bible tucked under his arm. Solis checking his watch. Wu already calculating angles in his head. If we do this by the book, Leo said quietly, we're dead. But if we don't, we're court-martialed. He touched the letter in his breast pocket. Clara's handwriting through the fabric. He'd promised her he'd come home, but doctrine was going to get them killed. And somewhere in the hedgerows, a German tank commander with 52 kills was waiting. August 18th, 0815 hours. The American column advanced through the hedgerows in perfect formation. 5 Shermans spaced 50 yards apart, exactly as doctrine prescribed. Leo's tank, Vanguard 2, held second position in the line. Through the vision ports, Normandy looked like a green maze, each hedgerow 8 feet tall and thick enough to stop a truck. Visibility was 50 yards maximum. Radio static crackled in Leo's headset as the column commander's voice broke through. Vanguard 2, this is Vanguard 1. Maintain 50-yard intervals, over. Leo keyed his mic. Vanguard 1, Vanguard 2. Roger that. Inside the Sherman, the air smelled like oil and sweat and the metallic tang of ammunition. The M4A1 carried 92 rounds for the 75mm gun, stacked in racks around the turret and hull. The crew of 5 moved in practiced rhythm. Driver and assistant driver in the front hull, Leo in the commander's position, Owen at the gunner's station, and their loader positioned to feed the gun. 29 apron roads, 15 cross-country, 56 millimeters of frontal armor, 38 on the sides. Numbers Leo had memorized back in Cleveland. Specifications that seemed adequate until you learned what they were adequate against. The lead Sherman, Vanguard 1, rounded a corner in the hedge lane at 0822. The sound came first. A crack, not like artillery, sharper, faster. The physics of high-velocity German engineering traveling at 2,700 feet per second. Then the explosion. Vanguard 1 simply ceased to exist as a functional vehicle. The 88mm round punched through the front glasses plate like it was cardboard. The Sherman brewed up instantly, flames shooting 30 feet into the air as ammunition cooked off inside. Leo's throat went dry. Halt! Reverse! But Vanguard 3 was already pushing forward. The commander, trying to spot the enemy, following doctrine that said to advance and concentrate fire. Leo never even saw where the Tiger was positioned, just the result. Another crack. Another Sherman hit in the turret at 600 yards. The explosion ripped the turret clean off its ring. 3 crew killed instantly. 2 more bailed out, uniforms burning, screaming. "Back! Get us back!" Leo hammered his fist against the driver's shoulder. The Sherman lurched into reverse, engine roaring as they backed into a sunken lane. Through the vision port, Leo searched for the Tiger. Nothing. Just smoke and hedge and the burning hulks of 2 American tanks. Owen's voice was shaking. "Sarge, I can't see it. Where is it?" "I don't know." Leo's hands were trembling on the radio handset. They couldn't see the Tiger, couldn't hit what they couldn't see, and running would just expose their thinner side armor. 800 meters away, in a position carefully chosen for overlapping fields of fire and natural concealment, Oberleutnant Klaus Richter watched through his commander's cupola. The Zeiss optics were crystal clear, even at this range. German precision engineering that turned distant targets into shooting gallery ducks. He'd positioned the Tiger in the shadow of a thick hedgerow, hulled down so only the turret was exposed, with clear sight lines down 3 separate approach lanes. "Target, Panzerfeind, 1,600 meters," Klaus said calmly into his throat mic. His gunner acknowledged, already adjusting for range and windage. The 8.8 mm KBUK 36 L56 gun was a masterpiece. Muzzle velocity of nearly 3,000 feet per second. Flat trajectory, devastating penetration. Time to target at this range was 1.8 seconds. The American crews probably never knew what hit them. Klaus pressed the firing button. Crack. Through his optics, he watched the tracer arc across the distance, saw the impact, saw another Sherman erupt in flames. Clean kill, professional, exactly as he'd been trained at the Panzerschule. "Reload," he ordered. His loader, Bauer, was already moving with the mechanical precision of German crew drill. But Klaus was counting in his head. 2 kills, 4 rounds expended, 30 remaining. Each round was precious now, with supply lines collapsing and the Americans pushing deeper into France every day. Bauer's voice came through the intercom, young and eager. "Herr Oberleutnant, is it true what they say? That 1 Tiger equals 10 Shermans?" Klaus watched the 3rd burning Sherman through his optics. 3 American crews dead in 4 minutes. 15 men who'd woken up this morning thinking they'd see tomorrow. He thought about the propaganda posters back in Germany, the newsreels showing invincible Tigers crushing Allied armor, the speeches about superior Aryan engineering. "The propaganda says 1 Tiger is invincible," Klaus replied quietly. "The truth is simpler. German engineering plus good ground equals advantage, but advantages run out." He tapped the fuel gauge, less than half a tank remaining. "And Bauer, they keep coming. They always keep coming." In the sunken lane, Leo pressed his back against the turret wall, breathing hard. His crew was silent. Owen's hands were shaking on the gun controls. Through the radio, Leo could hear other units calling for support, reporting contact, requesting permission to withdraw. "We can't fight that," Owen whispered. Leo pulled out his map, studied the hedge geometry, the angles and distances and approach routes. His mind was already working the problem the way he used to work production bottlenecks in Cleveland. There had to be a solution. There was always a solution. You just had to change the math. August 19th, 0200 hours. Leo couldn't sleep. He sat in his tent with a notebook open on his knees, sketching by flashlight. Not the frontal attack doctrine demanded, but something else entirely. The Tiger was strong frontally, but it was also stationary. Shermans were fast. What if 3 tanks came from different angles simultaneously? What if, instead of feeding the tiger, targets one at a time, they forced it to choose? He drew lines on the paper, calculating speeds and distances. The M4 could do 29 mph on roads. The tiger's turret traverse was slow. 60 seconds for a full 360 degrees of rotation manually, 30 seconds with powered traverse. If 3 Shermans approached from different directions at the same time, the tiger couldn't face all of them at once. It was geometry. Simple math. The kind of problem Leo used to solve on the factory floor when production lines bottlenecked. At 0300, he gave up on sleep entirely and walked to Battalion HQ. Captain Decker was still awake, sitting at a field desk with casualty reports spread in front of him. The oil lamp cast shadows across his face, making him look 10 years older than he was. "Sir, I need 5 minutes." Decker looked up, exhausted. "Sergeant Vance, it's 3 in the morning. "I know, sir, but I think I know how to kill that tiger." Decker gestured at the empty chair. Leo sat and spread his sketches on the desk. Approach routes, timing marks, radio coordination sequences. He talked fast, explaining the concept. 1 Sherman pins frontally with smoke while 2 others flank from different angles. Change the geometry. Turn the tiger's strength into a liability. "Sir, the tiger's side armor is only 80 millimeters. Our 75 can penetrate that at 800 yards. If we come at him from 3 directions at once, he can't rotate fast enough to engage all of us. We just need to change the math from 1 tiger shoots 5 Shermans one at a time to 1 tiger gets surrounded." Decker studied the sketches, his expression unreadable. "That's not doctrine, Sergeant. You break formation, you lose coordination. You'll get lost in the hedgerows, hit each other with crossfire." Leo pulled out more detailed diagrams, road positions, timing sequences, radio call procedures. "Sir, I built these things in Cleveland. I know what they can do. The M4 does 29 mph on roads. We can reposition faster than he can rotate that 57-ton turret. We just need speed and angles. And if you're wrong, if one of those Shermans gets lost in the bocage or the timing's off by 30 seconds, then we're no worse off than we are now, sir. Right now, doctrine says we advance in line and die in line. This way, at least we're making him choose which direction to face." Decker sat back in his chair, rubbing his eyes. Leo could see him calculating not just tactical odds, but political ones, career-ending decisions, the weight of command that meant every choice could put names on casualty reports. Finally, Decker spoke. "You get 1 chance. 3 tanks. Vanguard 2, Vanguard 4, Vanguard 5. Synchronized attack, 0600 tomorrow. If you're wrong, Sergeant, those 9 men are on you." Leo found Lieutenant Wu and Staff Sergeant Solis in their tents an hour before dawn. Wu was already awake, cleaning his sidearm by candlelight. Solis was writing a letter home, probably to his wife and 3 daughters back in Arizona. Leo spread his sketches on Solis's footlocker and walked them through the plan. "We're calling it the Viper Coil," Leo said. "Mateo, you advance frontally, lay smoke at 200 yards. Daniel and I flank from parallel routes at full speed. We hit him from 3 directions within 60 seconds of each other. He can only face 1 direction at a time." Wu studied the sketches, his finger tracing the approach routes. "Timing has to be perfect. If one of us arrives early, the tiger picks us off before the others get there. That's why we synchronize watches and use radio time hacks every 30 seconds. We stay coordinated." Solis looked at Leo with the calm steadiness of a man who'd survived 3 beach landings. "And if Decker's right, if we get tangled up in the hedge and lose coordination, then we improvise. But Mateo, you've got 3 daughters waiting for you. You really want to drive straight at that 88 and hope doctrine works this time." Solis folded his letter and tucked it into his breast pocket. No, I don't. They planned through the rest of the night. Radio frequencies, timing marks, fallback positions, fields of fire. Owen sat quietly in the corner, sketching the plan in the margin of his Bible. 3 small Shermans surrounding one larger tank. The impossible geometry that might just save their lives. 800 meters away, Klaus Richter stood in his commander's cupola, watching the pre-dawn darkness through his binoculars. He'd noticed something yesterday. American patrols probing 3 different approach routes instead of 1. They were learning, adapting. He told Bauer, "They're getting smarter. That makes them more dangerous." But the Tiger was low on fuel now. 36 gallons remaining, barely enough for 20 miles of movement. Klaus could reposition once, maybe twice more, before he'd be fixed in place. The advantage was narrowing. The trap was becoming a cage. August 19th, 0555 hours. Leo stood beside Ironclad, watching his crew load the 75mm gun. 92 rounds ready. Engine idling. Owen was pale but steady, his hands no longer shaking. Leo keyed his radio. "Vanguard 4, Vanguard 5. This is Vanguard 2. Remember speed and angles. Hit him where he ain't looking. Execute." 0600 hours. 3 Shermans advanced on 3 different hedgerow lanes, engines roaring, converging on the Tiger's suspected position like the points of a closing triangle. Leo gripped the turret rail as Ironclad bounced over rutted farm roads at 28 mahar, faster than doctrine ever recommended through bocage terrain. The entire plan depended on speed and timing. Arrive too early, and the Tiger picks you off alone. Arrive too late, and your buddy's already burning. Solis's voice crackled through the radio, at 0600 exactly. "Vanguard 2, Vanguard 4, this is Vanguard 5. Commencing frontal approach, laying smoke now." Through his commander's cupola, Leo couldn't see Solis's Sherman, but he could imagine it, advancing straight down the main lane while the gunner pumped white phosphorus rounds, downrange at 1 to 200 yards. Thick smoke would be billowing across the Tiger's position now, obscuring those perfect Zeiss optics that Klaus Richter relied on. Leo heard the Tiger fire, that distinctive crack of the 88, followed by Solis's calm voice. "Vanguard 5, missed wide by 15 feet, continuing advance." Klaus was firing blind through smoke now, his greatest advantage neutralized. Leo checked his watch. 45 seconds until they reached flanking position. "Driver, maintain speed. Gunner, prepare for target left, 600 yards." Owen's voice came back steady. "Ready, Sarge." Klaus's voice cut through the intercom inside the Tiger, sharp with recognition. "They're flanking. Driver, pivot right." But the Tiger I weighed 57 tons, and soft Norman soil wasn't parade ground concrete. The massive tank began its turn sluggishly, treads chewing mud, turret rotating to meet the new threat. Ironclad burst through a gap in the hedgerow at 600 yards. Perfect side angle on the Tiger's hull. Leo saw it clearly now for the first time. The angular armor, the long 88 barrel swinging toward them, the German cross painted on the turret. For one crystalline second, he understood what his factory floor calculations had missed. This wasn't just a machine. It was 57 tons of predatory intention. "Target, Panzer, side 600, Owen shouted. "Fire!" The 75mm gun bucked, the breech slamming backward as the armor-piercing round screamed downrange. Leo watched through his optics as the round struck the Tiger's side hull, exactly where the ammunition storage was located. Boom! Sparks flew, metal shrieked, but the smoke cleared and the Tiger was still moving, still fighting. 80mm of side armor had held. "Reload! Reload!" but Klaus's turret was swinging toward them now. That massive 88 tracking ironclad like a predator's eye. Leo had maybe 3 seconds before. Crack! But the sound came from the wrong direction. Wu's Sherman, Vanguard 4, had materialized at 500 yards from the opposite flank, exactly as planned. His 75mm round caught the Tiger at the turret ring, where armor thinned to 60mm. The impact sent shrapnel ricocheting inside the turret. Through his optics, Leo saw the Tiger's main gun stop rotating mid-traverse. Jammed. Klaus understood immediately what had happened. They'd changed the geometry on him, turned his strength into a liability. He couldn't rotate the gun to engage Leo, couldn't pivot the hull fast enough to face Wu, and Solis was pushing through the smoke now at 400 yards. A third angle of attack. Abandon tank! Klaus's order cut through the German intercom with the finality of a man who knew when mathematics had turned against him. Solis, Wu, and Leo poured fire into the Tiger's rear armor. 3 Shermans, 9 rounds in 15 seconds, overwhelming the German tank with volume and angles. 1 round punched through the engine deck. Fuel ignited. Flames erupted from the Tiger's engine compartment, black smoke boiling into the morning sky. The German crew bailed out through the hatches, hands raised, uniforms smeared with oil and smoke. Klaus was the last out, standing beside his burning tank, watching 3 Shermans surround the machine that propaganda had called invincible. His hands were raised, but his face was calm, an engineer watching an elegant solution to a problem he'd believed had no answer. Leo ordered his driver forward, gun trained on the German crew. 50 yards separated them now, close enough to see Klaus Richter, clearly older than Leo expected, maybe 34, with the bearing of a man who understood exactly what had just happened. 5 years of propaganda had told Klaus that 1 Tiger equaled 10 Shermans. But 3 had just killed his invincible machine, not by being better, but by being smarter. Leo was about to order his crew to dismount and secure prisoners when battalion radio crackled with Captain Decker's voice, urgent and strained. All Vanguard units, Tiger contact at Grid Quebec 74, requesting immediate support, Vanguard 6 and Vanguard 7 destroyed, multiple casualties. Vanguard 2, you're the closest unit, how copy? Leo's hand froze on the radio handset. Another Tiger 2 miles east, more Shermans burning, more crews dying. He looked at his fuel gauge. Half a tank remaining. Ammunition counter, 71 rounds. His crew was exhausted, hands still shaking from adrenaline. But American tankers were dying while he sat here. He looked at Klaus Richter one more time, the enemy engineer who'd built death machines but now understood the mathematics of defeat. And in that moment, Leo made a choice that would change everything. Leo made the decision in 3 seconds. He dropped from the turret, walked to Klaus Richter with his sidearm drawn but pointed at the ground, and asked in broken German, "Wie viel Tiger? How many Tigers?" Klaus looked at him, really looked at him, and answered in accented English. 2 more, maybe 3. You cannot face them alone. Leo holstered his sidearm and turned to Solis. Matteo, secure these prisoners with your infantry support. Daniel, you're with me. Then he looked back at Klaus. You're coming with us. You're going to tell us how to kill them. Owen's eyes went wide. Sarge, we can't. We can, and we will. Those are American crews dying right now. If he knows Tiger weaknesses, we're using that intel. Leo pulled out zip ties from his field kit. Hands out, Oberleutnant. Klaus extended his wrists without protest. As Leo secured them, Klaus spoke quietly. You understand what you are asking. For me to betray my own tactics. I understand I've got maybe 15 minutes before more of my guys burn to death in machines that can't protect them. Leo met Klaus's eyes. "You've got a choice. You can sit here and be a prisoner, or you can help us fight intelligently instead of stupidly. Your call." Klaus looked at his burning Tiger, at Bauer and the other crew members being guarded by American infantry, at the 3 Shermans that had just executed a flanking maneuver he'd never anticipated. Then he nodded once. "I will help, but not because I betray Germany, because watching brave men die from bad doctrine, American or German, is not engineering, it is murder." They raced toward Grid Quebec 74 at 25 mph. Klaus sitting in the tank commander's position beside Leo, hands zip-tied, with Owen's sidearm trained on him from the gunner seat. Wu's Sherman followed 50 yards behind. The ride was loud, engine roaring, treads clanking, radio chatter crackling with frantic contact reports from the engagement ahead. Klaus leaned close to Leo's map, studying the terrain. The Tiger will position hull down with overlapping fields of fire. Side armor is only 80 millimeters. You can penetrate at 800 yards if you hit clean. Turret traverse is our weakness. 30 seconds for full rotation with power, 60 without. He tapped coordinates on the map. If I were commanding that Tiger, I would be here. High ground, 3 approach lanes, hedgerow, concealment. "Why are you helping us?" Leo asked, not looking away from the map. Klaus was quiet for a moment, watching the Norman countryside blur past through the vision port. "Because this," he gestured at the burning fields, the destroyed tanks they passed, the smoke rising from a dozen different fires. "This is not what I studied engineering to create. I wanted to build bridges, cranes, things that lifted civilization. Instead, I built this war. And your doctrine, sending brave men straight into 88mm guns because a manual says so. That is as much an engineering failure as any mechanical flaw." At 0715, they reached the engagement zone. Vanguard 6 was a smoking wreck in a field, turret blown clean off. Vanguard 7 was damaged but mobile, backing away from an unseen enemy position. Leo grabbed the radio. "Vanguard 7, this is Vanguard 2. Execute the Viper coil. I'll pin frontally with smoke. You flank from the east access road. How copy?" The response came back shaky but willing. "Vanguard 2, Vanguard 7, copy Viper coil. Standing by." Klaus provided ranges and angles as they advanced, his voice calm and precise, like he was teaching a university lecture instead of helping kill his own countrymen's equipment. "On 200 meters, load smoke. When you fire, he will rotate towards the threat. That gives your flanker 45 seconds before the turret can engage the new angle." Leo ordered the smoke rounds. The white phosphorus bloomed across the Tiger's position, obscuring vision just as it had with Klaus's own tank an hour earlier. Then Leo pushed Ironclad forward aggressively, drawing the Tiger's attention while Wu and Vanguard 7 raced down parallel routes at maximum speed. The attack unfolded exactly as planned. Leo pinned frontally. Vanguard 7, flanked from the east at 30 mph, struck the Tiger's rear armor at 550 yards. 3 quick shots, engine kill. The German crew bailed immediately, hands raised, recognizing the same tactical defeat Klaus had experienced. As MPs arrived to secure the second, Tiger's crew, a new tank rolled into the clearing, a different silhouette, a longer gun barrel. A Sherman Firefly from the British 11th Armored Division. The commander, Lieutenant Davies, dismounted and surveyed the scene with a grin. "Bloody brilliant flanking, Yank." Davies patted his Firefly's 17-pounder gun. "But next week, you won't need the fancy footwork. This gun can kill a Tiger frontally at 1,000 yards. One shot straight through. We're mass-producing them now." Leo looked at the long 17-pounder, then at Klaus. Klaus nodded slowly, understanding immediately. So, the trick becomes standard. That is how wars are won. Good ideas become doctrine. As MPs led Klaus away, the German officer turned back. Sergeant Vance, your factory, you said Cleveland? Yes. My factory was Krupp in Essen. We both built machines of war. Perhaps after this. He didn't finish, but Leo understood. Leo extended his hand. They shook briefly, formally. Two engineers who'd spent the morning rewriting the mathematics of survival. Owen watched, his Bible still tucked under his arm, understanding that sometimes dignity mattered more than propaganda, even in defeat. 3 months later, Leo, Aus Viper Coil flanking tactic appeared in official U.S. Armored Forces doctrine. Sherman Firefly production reached 700 units by October. Tigers were no longer invincible, just targets with known vulnerabilities. And in November, Leo received a letter from the Red Cross. Klaus Richter was alive in a POW camp in England, teaching Allied interrogators about German tank design, including a sketch of two engineers building something other than weapons. A bridge, a crane, anything but death. Leo sat in his tent that evening, writing to Clara. Today I learned something the propaganda never taught. Wars aren't won by the best machines, but by the best thinking. And sometimes even enemies can teach you how to win. He looked at Owen's Bible sketch of 3 Shermans surrounding one Tiger, the impossible geometry that had changed everything, and finally felt like the math made sense. Thank you for following this story to the end. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel to join us in more stories like this. If you want to watch another story, click the video on screen. I promise you'll love it.